Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating evolution of Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of non-violent resistance. We're going to break down exactly how this unique approach was deployed against the absolute might of the British Empire. A peaceful rebellion, a most civilized form of warfare, and yet dangerous to the stability of the state. That's a brilliant insight right there from Jawaharlal Nehru, and honestly, it perfectly captures the paradox of the non-cooperation strategy we're about to unpack. It really makes you think, right? How exactly can something fundamentally peaceful be so utterly dangerous to an entrenched empire? Well, let's find out. So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the weapon of Satyagraha, move right into the non-cooperation movement, explore the demands for complete independence, detail civil disobedience and the Salt March, and wrap up with the resulting conferences and social reform. All right, part 1, the weapon of Satyagraha. Before we get into the big mass movements, we've got to understand the ground rules. And Satyagraha definitely wasn't just passive resistance. The term actually comes from two Sanskrit words, satya meaning truth, and agraha meaning the insistence to hold fast. So it was this active, fearless, positive moral force used to resist exploitation. It demanded intense courage, but without ever resorting to physical force. Right alongside truth was the doctrine of nonviolence, or ahimsa. Now, true nonviolence for Gandhi wasn't just, a negative absence of fighting or killing. It was a profoundly positive, active force of benevolence. It strictly excluded any hatred towards the oppressor, operating on the idea that it's the virtue of the strong to separate the evil deed from the evildoer. The final piece of this philosophical puzzle was Swadeshi. This was a brilliant economic strategy designed to foster self-sufficiency. Think about it. By producing necessary items domestically, emphasizing manual labor like using the spinning wheel, the charkha, and wearing homespun khadi cloth, Indians could literally sever their economic reliance on British imported goods. It hit the empire right in the wallet. But Gandhi didn't just launch this on a national scale overnight. He successfully tested these tools locally first. In 1917, he fought for exploited indigo cultivators in Champaran. Then, in 1918, he used a hunger strike to back Ahmedabad millworkers and organized Kheda peasants to refuse unfair land revenue payments. These early struggles were absolutely crucial proving grounds for his methods. Moving on to part 2, the non-cooperation movement. So, the atrocities of 1919, like the devastating Jallianwala Bagh massacre and repressive policies like the Rowlatt Act, profoundly affected Gandhi. It led him to a really stark realization. Non-cooperation with evil is as much a duty as is cooperation with good. This was a game changer. It shifted Gandhi from being a willing cooperator with the British Empire to a staunch non-cooperator. He boldly asked the Indian public to entirely withdraw their assistance because he realized a massive truth. Foreign rule relied entirely on the cooperation of the governed. The resulting mass movement was absolutely immense. But it came to an abrupt halt in 1922. In Chauri Chaura, an infuriated mob actually set fire to a police station during a protest, killing 22 policemen. This violent act deeply, deeply shocked Gandhi. Because it violated his strict, uncompromising rule of ahimsa, he completely called off the national movement. He believed the masses just weren't ready for true nonviolence yet. Let's head into part 3, demanding complete independence. Following that suspension, political tensions continued to boil over, pushing the nation toward a new threshold. In 1927, the All-British Simon Commission arrived to investigate constitutional reforms. But here's the catch. It included 0 Indian members. This was taken as a huge, deliberate insult to Indian self-respect, and it sparked massive countrywide boycotts, black flag demonstrations, and severe police retaliation, all united under the famous rallying cry, "Simon, go back." The British actually claimed that Indians couldn't agree on their own constitution anyway. So Indian leaders responded by drafting the Nehru Report in 1928. It laid out a very clear framework: dominion status, a bicameral parliament, and critically, 19 fundamental rights. The Congress gave the British exactly 1 year to accept this report. When the British refused to meet that deadline, well, it set the stage for a dramatic ultimatum. Which brings us to part 4, civil disobedience and SALT. With their demands completely ignored, the Congress officially declared Purna Swaraj, meaning complete independence. Now, the crucial thing to understand here is a strategic evolution. The earlier non-cooperation movement was about passively refusing to help the government, right? But civil disobedience? That was a much more aggressive step forward. It was an active, deliberate, and highly public breaking of specific colonial laws aimed at paralyzing the administration. To put this new tactic into action, Gandhi led the historic Dandi March in 1930 to illegally manufacture salt. Now, you might be wondering, why salt? Well, Gandhi ingeniously targeted the salt tax because it disproportionately impacted literally every single class of society, especially the poorest. By simply walking to the beach and picking up a handful of salt, he triggered a massive, nationwide violation of British laws. The sheer scale of the resulting strikes and boycotts was so intense that it forced the government right to the negotiating table. This resulted in the Gandhi-Irwin Pact of 1931. And the concessions were huge: the withdrawal of harsh ordinances, the release of nonviolent political prisoners, and the right to actually make salt near the coast. In exchange, the Congress agreed to hit pause on the movement and head to London for negotiations.
Okay, part 5, conferences and social reform.
So, this truth effectively shifted the battleground from the dusty streets and coasts of India all the way to the high-stakes negotiating halls of London. Over a span of 3 years, the British hosted the Round Table conferences to hammer out constitutional reforms. Gandhi even attended the second conference as the sole representative of the Congress. But these summits repeatedly hit massive deadlocks, especially over the fiercely debated issue of how minority groups would be represented in any future government. You can really see this complexity in the intense negotiations between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Gandhi. The British Prime Minister proposed the Communal Award, which would grant separate electorates for the depressed classes. Gandhi strongly opposed this. He feared it would deeply, permanently divide Indian society, and he actually began a fast unto death over it. The resulting compromise was the Pune Pact. This agreement brilliantly kept the general electorate unified, but it significantly bumped up the reserved seats for the depressed classes from 71 to 148. Ultimately, while immediate independence obviously wasn't won overnight, the underlying impacts of these movements were absolutely profound. They transformed what was once a niche political struggle into a true mass movement, pulling in peasants, workers, and students. They instilled a massive sense of self-confidence, occasionally fostered incredible Hindu-Muslim unity, and promoted vital social reforms. Basically, they took a population and forged them into an unstoppable political force. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to ponder. We've seen how the meticulous blueprints of Satyagraha and organized civil disobedience completely reshaped the destiny of an entire subcontinent. So, looking at our modern world, which is still wrestling with systemic inequalities and deep injustices, how might these exact strategies of peaceful yet totally uncompromising rebellion be applied to our struggles today? Think about that. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and never stop questioning.